Good evening. I'm your host, Fritz Eskenik. Tonight on A Day in the Life, we investigate the exploits of a notorious public support group that has come under huge media fire for its outrageous public awareness campaigns. From its controversial theatre group to its banned music video and song. If you give me the time, I'll give you the facts. Tonight on A Day in the Life, SHAGEM, minority group or public nuisance. In order to get a balanced view of the events that transpired and fueled the fire of such huge media speculation and coverage, we start at the beginning as we assess the situation from the perspective of those most affected by the actions of this scandalous group. I'm joined here now, live via Skype, by Miss Joan Smythe, PTA member and teacher at Coal Hill Primary School in Port Albert. So, Miss Smythe, could you tell us a bit about the day that this SHAGEM group performed at the local school?
Yes, it was absolutely outrageous. Grown men talking about their winkies like that, and in front of children too.
They did what now?
Well, of course, we were all too shocked to say anything.
And I assume the children were traumatised by it.
Well, I don't know about that. The children were laughing so hard that a few of them actually wet themselves. It's an absolute disgrace.
I'm joined now, live via Skype, by Miss Helen Wilson, traumatised parent and outraged member of the public.
Hello.
So, Miss Wilson, could you enlighten us into the ongoing upset that this notorious group have inflicted on the local community?
Of course, my little Tommy just isn't the same, and I fear the events of that day have scarred him for life.
That's terrible. Could you give us any examples of how this has changed him?
I can give you several examples.
Please do.
Well, firstly, he and a number of his friends have become obsessed with their winkies, talking about them all day long.
Isn't it normal for a young boy to be curious about such things?
Maybe, but it's unsettling to see him and his friends mimicking what they heard at the group's performance. He actually turned to me with his todger in his hand and asked me if it was small.
How did you respond to that?
Well, I told him I'm not trying the one to answer that. And you know what he said to me?
No, please do tell.
He said, well, you wouldn't want it in your eye as a wart now, would you?
He said that?
Yes, he said that to me. His own mother. I can't tell you how upsetting it is to see our children spreading the propaganda of those awful men in our homes and in our towns.
So how old is little Tommy?
He'll be 17 next birthday.
But isn't it normal for boys of his age to indulge in such puerile jokes as part of their natural development?
No, not in my house it's not. They shouldn't know of such things until they are ready to get married.
Pardon me? Surely you must concede that the day would come when his curiosity would force him to explore such concepts.
No, my Tommy is a good boy. It breaks my heart that those terrible men have corrupted his innocence.
With me now is local councillor Mr. Bob Forsyth, the man responsible for his swift intervention of the group's activities.
Good evening.
So, Mr. Forsyth, could you give us a little insight into the growing tensions and public unrest surrounding both the activities of this group and your role and reasons for stopping them performing publicly?
Yes, of course. As you know, my office received countless complaints in regard to the antics of this scandalous group. And for the sake of public decency, and to rest the minds of my constituents, I was forced to intervene and put a stop to their activities.
Really?
Yes, and I would do it again. As a local leader, it is my duty to ensure that the children of the constituents in my care are not exposed to anything detrimental to their education or conflicting in terms of their innocence.
But would it be fair to say that the only ones who were actually offended by the activities of this group were in fact the teachers and staff at the school involved in this scandal?
No, I would say that is a pretty unfair assumption.
What was that?
Nothing. We have to think of the children.
But I have numerous eyewitness reports that state that the children thought it was the funniest thing they had ever seen.
That is as maybe, but we are not here to entertain children with toilet humour and penis jokes. We are here to educate them with facts and knowledge in a controlled environment.
And how do you respond to accusations by the said group that the only reason you leapt on this growing controversy was that there was a local election due and you were simply trying to sway the votes in the area?
I say it's absolute poppycock. Yes, maybe there's an election due, but regardless of that, for the sake of public decency, I felt it was necessary to assert my authority and stop them spreading widespread panic and unrest in our local schools.
But would it be fair to say that you would indeed benefit personally by your very public intervention?
Whose side are you on? I'm not the one visiting schools and relentlessly destroying the innocence of children with plays about my penis.
We're not on anyone's side, Mr. Forsyth. We're simply trying to find a balanced view of events.
You are trying to incriminate me and derail my election campaign.
That is not the case, Mr. Forsyth. Now, please answer the question.
What question?
Would it be fair to say that you would indeed benefit personally by your very public intervention?
It is entrapment and slander on my good name. The situation with the group was a media circus long before I came along.
Then how do you respond to claims by 83% of journalists who were there that day that they were personally contacted by your office and invited in advance of your impending intervention by your personal secretary?
This interview is over.
Mr. Forsyth!
Fuck off!
As you can see, tensions run high in what has become a volatile situation in this once quiet community. An outraged public calls for justice, but what are the motivations at work surrounding this controversy? Is the local council simply touting for votes? Are the parents and teachers involved simply being overcautious and overprotective when the children themselves were highly entertained and considered the show's content to be the funniest thing they had ever seen? Now I realise that on the surface, the concept of grown men visiting both schools and other public places to perform plays and songs of questionable subject matter and talk about their penises is outrageous to say the least. But what we've got to ask ourselves is, what is their motivation? What is the drive that makes grown men do this? What is their agenda, and indeed, what is their endgame? Is this just an innocent misunderstanding, or is there a more sinister agenda at work here? Now, to answer these questions and many more, it is important that we immerse ourselves into the workings of the group itself. So to this end, we contacted the group's newest member, Mr. Justin Miller, in hopes that he may help us glean some perspective into the group's workings and dispel some of the accusations that have put this support group under fire. Welcome, Justin. Good to have you here.
Hello. Glad to be here.
Could you tell us a little about this controversial group? Are they really the monsters that the media have branded them?
No, not at all. They have welcomed me and offered me nothing but help and support.
So how did you come to find out about this group?
Well, you have to understand, I was under a lot of pressure at home. Well, my dad suggested that I surf the internet and maybe try to find a site that offered help and support in dealing with what I've been going through.
And you happened upon the SHAGEM site?
Well, yeah, quite by accident, really. I thought I'd have a break from searching, have a quick wank. Oh! I mean, my dad asked me to search for carpets, and I typed in shag. He's a big fan of Shagpole, and well, there it was.
I understand it worked out quite favourably for you in its location.
Yeah, well, it's just down the road. I got the number off the website and attended my first meeting last week.
So who did you speak to arrange this meeting?
Oh, that'd be Phil. He's the counsellor for the group, Phil McCracken.
Oh!